All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Belize 101. My name is Katie Edgekeme. I'm here with ECI Development, and today we're going to dive into why Belize, and then we got some couple special properties at the end that we'll go over since there's so much happening here on Ambergris Key. But tonight we have our co-host, Mike Cobb, who is the CEO of ECI Development, been working in the region for over 30 years, so very special to have him on and share all of his knowledge with us.
Well, thank you, Katie. It's good to be here with everybody. And we normally like to try to wait just about a minute to let people log in. I was late to a meeting earlier today, Katie, because like the Zoom had to download a new update or something, right? It takes about a
Yeah,
minute to get in and
absolutely.
yeah.
And while we're waiting, I'll have everybody kind of take a look down on your bottom of your screen. You'll see the Q&A section there. At the end of the webinar, we will have some time to answer some questions. So if something pops in, go ahead and type it in. But in the meantime, I'll have you practice and go ahead and type in and let me know if you've visited Belize before or if you have
Yeah.
plans to visit this year. And we'll let you practice there.
That's a great question. I like that. I'm going to be in Belize tomorrow. So, and you're there now, aren't you? I
Yes,
assume.
absolutely. We have somebody typed in, yes, they visited. We've got a couple, so it's kind of tied right now. We got a couple folks still finding the Q&A section there.
Yeah. All
Mm.
right. Well, that's good. Belize is in fact, I think my very first slide is a story about my first trip to Belize. So we'll go in just another minute. We'll wait. Yeah, let's see what time is it? 6:02. Yeah, we can start. What do you think, Katie?
Sure. Well, I'm going to just say one thing. We have an anonymous attendee who said they're going to be in San Pedro next week. That's where I'm located. So, an anonymous attendee, if you want to reach out to us, let us know when you'll be here. I'm happy to meet up and show you around.
Yeah, Katie, you're a tremendous hostess there on the island, and I hope they take you up on that offer. So. All right. Well, this is a really kind of an introductory email. We cover a whole lot of different topics tonight. We're going to cover, Belize as a country, as a business destination, as an investment destination, but also as a residency destination for folks. And we'll touch very briefly on that, just a couple slides on that. But then also a lifestyle destination. And so, because we don't really know why you're here, specifically, again, keep this very general. We have some great resource material that we'll point you to at the end as well, so that you'll be able to get something like the Belize Handbook. It's an incredible resource that we put together. It's free. And then once you've had a chance to look at that, or you engage Katie or one of the other property consultants, we can drill into something very specific for you. What is it that you are actually looking for? Or maybe you don't know. You just want to explore the ideas of Belize generally. So we're here for you. We're going to just kind of go all over the place tonight in about 40 minutes with lots of different topics about Belize. And then please, if you have questions, we do have time at the end for Q&A. And if we don't get to them all, we're going to be strict on the hour, and we'll finish right at the top of the hour. We'll have somebody get back to you. So please, as you think of questions, put them in, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So about 32 years ago, I was in the computer business in the Washington, D.C. area. I still live about 80 miles west of Washington, D.C. now, in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, right here in the Shenandoah Valley. It's a beautiful part of the world. But at the time, I was living in Springfield, and my old college buddy, Joel Nagel, called me up one day. It was a Tuesday, and I'm sitting in my cubicle at the computer company, and he goes, "Hey, Cobster, what are you doing this weekend?" I'm like, "I don't know. Why?" He goes, "Do you want to go to Belize?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And now this is before Google, so I have no way to look this up, right? So I'm sitting there, and after a minute or two, I kind of have to fess up and go, "Hey, bud, like, where is Belize? Where are we going?" Anyway, yes, and I mean, it was British Honduras. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what's interesting is I'm really glad I made that trip to Belize. This was 1993, so what's that? 32 years ago now, and it changed my life in really wonderful ways. And I'm glad I said yes. And I hope that many of you will say yes as well. Yes to a trip to Belize, first and easy, right? That's the easy one. Yes to Belize. Come visit, see what it does for you, see how you feel, and release your adventurous soul. Come have fun. Everything begins with the word yes. And I hope that you will say yes to a trip to Belize as a first step, or if you've been to Belize, maybe the next step, right? Before we get going on the why Belize, I just want to talk more very generally about what we call people are running towards and running from, and we're only going to have a few slides. I think 3 slides on this. This is generally why overseas. It's not just why Belize. It's why overseas. We have people who are running towards, and 99% of this presentation is about running towards. But the next 3 slides are about running from, because we really have to address this elephant in the room. Many people are running towards, most people are running towards, but some people are running from, right? I mean, there are a ton of great reasons people are running towards, but generally what we find, and you may be one of them here tonight, is that you see a train wreck of debt, or you see a threat to your freedom in the country that you live in, or you see social and political turmoil, and these train wrecks are coming, and you can see them coming, and you're worried about them. And we do have a lot of people that express these concerns to us. And so I wanted to address them first, kind of get them out of the way, and just simply say that if you have these concerns, a country like Belize, not only Belize, but in this case, a country like Belize, really has some great ways for you to become a resident of these countries. Give yourself what we call a plan B, right? It's there if you need it. You hope you never have to use it, but you've got it if you need it. It's a true plan B. And the way you do that is through property ownership. You get a second residency, and all the while you're getting this international global diversification of your assets. And so if you're looking for a plan B, please let your property consultant know. We can even maybe answer a few questions tonight about that, because this is it. Then we're done with this particular topic, and we're going to move now towards the running to, right? Because this is really where most people are. They're running to a wonderful new life. They're running to a destination. They're running to a vacation property, retirement property, or in today's world, digital nomad. We're looking for a great place to go and work and have fun while we work, right? And Belize really checks a lot of those boxes for so many people. It's a very small country, 360,000 people. I mean, that's the whole country of Belize. Again, we've got other things in there, but the most important thing on here, I think, really is the third one down: language. The official language of Belize is English. And what that means is all documents are legal in English, right? You can go to Mexico or Costa Rica and Panama, and we work in these countries as well. And the documents can be translated into English, but they're legal in Spanish in those examples, right? In Belize, everything is legal in English. The other thing that's not on here that's also very, very important is that the legal system in Belize is common law, right? Throughout the rest of Latin America, it's civil law. Civil law is very different from common law. Common law is what we're used to here in the US and Canada for the most part. Quebec would be the exception. I think Louisiana in the US is maybe a partial exception. But generally, common law is what we use. It's what we're familiar with. The legal system in Belize is familiar to us because it is likewise common law. So Belize is, while it is in Central America, it really is a Caribbean country. It's on the mainland of Central America, but as you can see, it fronts to the Caribbean and about 300 islands off the coast. And so you have this continuous Caribbean feel and flavor throughout the whole country, especially on the coast, of course, but throughout the whole country, this feel and this vibe is there. And it really is special. And so what we're going to see now is there's a lot of imagery in this presentation, because Belize really is best presented, first of all, by being there, so you can see it with your own eyes, but with pictures and images to show really what's there, the depth and the richness of the country, the culture, the people, the activities, right? The things you can do, just everything from, obviously water sports to jungle. This right here is called cave tubing. This is one of the top 10 coolest things I have ever done in my entire life. These folks, I don't know if they're going into the cave or just coming out of the cave, but you float through caves on an inner tube. And some of the caves are about a mile long. So you are literally underwater. You're wearing a little miner helmet, right? Light around your head. It is so cool, so otherworldly. traditional stuff like snorkeling and fly fishing. Goodness, that has been a huge niche market, and now more of a broad market in Belize. And then just the hiking in the forest and the kinds of jungle and rainforest that you'll see and be able to be up close with. It's truly incredible. And when we get into lifestyle, what happens is all of a sudden we find this high level of affordability on so many things. So many things are so much more affordable. But the one thing that I hear time after time after time from hundreds of people is the fact that they can get organic produce, fruits, vegetables, hormone-free cheeses and meats and things like that. And it is unbelievably affordable. And what that really means for them and for all of us is a much healthier lifestyle that we can afford. My joke is if you get down to whole paycheck, which is what I call Whole Foods, right? If you get down to whole paycheck, like one tomato's $5, right? Here in Belize, you can eat organic and healthy for so much less than it costs to just eat normal in the US, right? So, or Canada. So anyway, this is a big driver. This is bringing people. This is the running towards. What are people running towards? All of those activities, the lifestyle, the weather, right? But a healthier lifestyle as well. A little bit of quick history. The Mayans settled Belize back about 1500 BC. They lasted to about the 12th century, and then they really just kind of disappeared and blended back into the jungle. The heritage is still there, the people are still there, but it wasn't a civilization as such anymore. The Europeans showed up with Columbus in 1492, and then the British came along in 1600s because they were looking for the mahogany and for the purple dye that came out of the plants in Belize. And so they came and in 1798, it's the only war Belize has ever had. The British defeated the Spanish at the Battle of St. George's Key, 1798. What's that, about 200 and whatever, a little over 200 years ago. And the country became British Honduras at that point until 1981 when they gained their independence. The country is incredibly diverse. You've got the Mayan heritage, you've got the British heritage, you've got the Mexican, Guatemalan, and Honduran, you've got the Garifuna. So you've got this incredible mix of people in Belize, and all they say about half the people is, or half the people are bilingual, multilingual. I think the number is probably much higher than that, based on my experience of just walking around and seeing people and hearing the different languages that are spoke. Belize is a great place to do business. It's exactly why I went there 32 years ago. My buddy Joel, he's a lawyer. He was setting up asset protection trusts for physicians. And he helps people who are likely to get sued a lot. And so he helps people set up, trusts. Belize was a great place for him to do that. And it still is, by the way. They have strong banking laws, great asset protection, but also things like affordable real estate. The banking we'll touch on here a little deeper in a second, and then a growing economy. Look, there's 400,000, less than 400,000 people in the country, right? It doesn't take a whole lot to move the needle with that small of a population. So you have this very dynamic, robust economy in Belize, and it is growing leaps and bounds. Largely now driven by the tourism industry. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. One of the things that people want to know about when they talk about Belize a lot of times is banking. We're not going to get into it real heavy, but there are a couple key points here that I just want to say. The privacy factor of banking is solid. That there are many more disclosure rules that the US, Canada, the OECD, or EU are really putting out. But still, if it's not a government agency, the privacy in the banks in Belize is strong, and that's important to a lot of folks. Stability, liquidity ratio, that's number 2 on this list. It's simply said, in Belize, every dollar that's deposited in a bank, 24 cents of that money has to be liquid, meaning it has to be in overnight money, 30-day money, with, say, the US Treasuries or Canadian or euros. It has to be totally liquid, 24 cents on the dollar. US banks, I think right now are about 4%, 4.5%. So if you just look at that, you'd say, the banks, the liquidity ratio, the strength of the banks in Belize is significantly greater because of the liquidity they have to maintain. That's the statutory minimum. Most banks, including a bank that I'm involved with, Key International Bank, full disclosure, I think our liquidity ratio is a little over 30% generally. Asset protection laws are great. And then the reserve requirements on the central bank. So as a banking destination, Belize is really solid. This is us. This is Key International Bank. I'm in that picture somewhere there. And again, I'm one of the founders of the bank. It was a mortgage company for 10 years. We've been a bank now for 21 years. And our primary business is lending money. Not for just our projects. In fact, a very small amount of the loans actually go to ECI related projects. We fund our competitors' projects. We fund folks that want to buy a home or a condo anywhere in Belize, but also outside of Belize. So if you're looking for a property and you don't have all the money to acquire it, and you want to make a loan, Key Bank is a place that you should check, and you can reach us through the same information we have coming out later in the presentation. So we're going to kind of shift gears a little bit. We're going to come out of sort of the specifics of Belize, and I'm going to kind of move to this general concept, and then we're going to drill down one more time using this big framework idea of a time machine. That's the picture there. It's the H.G. Wells time machine. And I always like to ask them when I'm in a live audience, because I can see people and I can see their faces and put up hands and all kind of stuff. But I always ask, I say, if H.G. Wells, and I just ask, if H.G. Wells showed up in your dining room, living room, office, wherever you happen to be tuning in from tonight, if that time machine popped in right beside you and H.G. Wells jumped out and said, hey, get on the time machine right here, right now. I'm going to take you back 20 years. You can bring one check, and then we're going to bring you exactly back to this moment. How many of you would be coming back a lot wealthier? I mean, I hope all of you, right? I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? The time machine concept is powerful. The developing world is a time machine. I mean, it's not like a time machine. It is a time machine. And what we see on this developing country curve, right, or as I call it, the popularity curve, right, is different countries sort of evolve over a process of time, and they follow a very similar path. Not the same path, because all countries are different, but countries follow a very similar path. And if we know the path, because we can study what happened, before, we can put ourselves in the path of progress. So for example, how I put the various countries on here was I just simply asked myself this question. If a young couple in Des Moines, Iowa gets married this Saturday, where are they likely to go on their honeymoon Monday? Right? They get married on Saturday, they're off on their honeymoon. You know what? Some of them are going to Bermuda, BVI, Caymans, Cancun, a bunch of them going to Cancun, of course, right? Bahamas, Costa Rica, Panama. A few are probably going to Belize because it's become popular. But I can assure you that not very many young couples that are getting married this weekend in Des Moines, Iowa, are headed off to Honduras, Nicaragua, or El Salvador because they're just simply not popular, right? But there's a case to be made for why you might want to look at that, right? Because it's very, very inexpensive. It has high value, right? And as a country becomes more and more popular, the real estate prices go up. But because of popularity, cash flow can happen, right? If people are coming on their honeymoon, that means people are also coming to vacation, right? Or coming down on business. And so you get more cash flow in the country, in the properties. And so this time machine is really, really an important map, I would say, a mind map, a mental map to help us understand where a country like Belize is. 32 years ago, when I first went to Belize, there were sand streets in San Pedro. There was no concrete. There was no building over 2 stories. Now, in fact, I think I have a slide coming up in a second. I always like to say Ambergris Caye is kind of like the Bahamas 20 years ago. I think that's a pretty good analogy. But if you just look, this picture was a little before 93. This picture, I think, was taken in 87 or 88. This was the airstrip in San Pedro then, and this is what it looked like a year or two ago when I took that picture. Obviously, a big change, right? So as Belize has become more popular, different things have come along. Obviously, Johnny Grief and the folks, Steve Schulte and the folks that started Tropic Air, right? Kind of got in front of a path of progress, and now they don't have just a float plane, a whole fleet of planes, right? And so they were really there to take advantage of this time machine concept. And what drives it, what drives popularity are several things. We'll come back to a key factor in a minute. But if you just want to look at the numbers, right, you go back to 2009, 232,000 overnight travelers, right? These are overnight guests. It ramped all the way up to about 500,000. COVID boom, dropped to 150. This year, last year, 2024, eclipsed 560,000 folks. So the best year ever for the country of Belize, 500,000 overnight visitors to Belize. And so what you see is just this strong growth curve with the one exception of COVID, but bam, right out of COVID, the numbers are coming, right back up as well. What drives it is airlift. What drives it is airlift. When I first started going to Belize, there were three airlines that flew there: Avianca, United, and American. That's it. You had to take one of those three airlines to get there. Today there's JetBlue, there's WestJet, there's Southwest Airlines, Alaska Airlines, obviously United, American, Delta, and then other Copa coming out of South America. So the airlift into the country is absolutely grown exponentially over this time period. This is what allows a country to expand and grow. About 3/4 of the business is U.S. and Canadian. There's some others in there. Europeans, a small count. But the primary market in Belize is U.S. and Canadians. And one of the things that I like to look at when I'm looking at a destination, and I hope that you would look at this too, is what do other consumers say about the country, right? Because look, a lot of times, if you Condé Nast magazine or just pick a magazine, right, and they write up, a country, and typically you'll see in the magazine there'll be some advertisements, 4 or 5 pages of advertisements from resorts and hotels and restaurants and other things in that country, right? So they have this editorial piece, but then they have this advertising piece, right? And so it's hard for there's an editorial integrity and all that kind of stuff, but you know what? If you really diss a country hard, the chances of them coming back the next time to advertise with you are pretty slim, right? So we just have to be kind of realistic about that. I love TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor tells us what the consumer thinks with no dog in the fight. They went to Belize. They either had a great time, they didn't have a good time, they had a mediocre time, whatever they had, they put it on TripAdvisor. Look at this. Top 10 destinations, Central America, Ambergris Caye, Belize, year after year after year. Ambergris Caye and the country of Belize sits at the top of the TripAdvisor ratings. Consumers who went there, tens of thousands of people who went there and said, this place rocks, right? This is powerful data. The other thing I like to look at are business people. Again, Airbnb rental market, right? Again, they're not advertising Condé Nast magazine. These are people who have a property or two or three, but in many cases, just one property that they put up on Airbnb and they rank the places. I mean, Ambergris Caye, A+, Tamarindo's, Costa Rica, A-, not bad, right? And the other places, Tulum, Mexico, Panama, Turks and Caicos get Bs. I mean, that's not horrible. But Airbnb owners, business owners, rank Ambergris Caye at the highest level. And so, this is important for us to look at. What are consumers saying? What are other business people saying who, again, really aren't married particularly to the outcome of what they say? A little bit of an odd slide to throw in here, but it's important, and we're going to talk about why it's important in a minute. If you're off on that right side, 95th percentile up, right, you're pulling in 250 to whatever, millions of dollars a year. The world is really your oyster, right? You can go anywhere you want. right? You can write a check for however much money it is, 500,000, a mil, $2 million, write a check, right? Own the property. You're going to get a world-class property when you do that. The challenge is if you can go write a check, maybe put $50,000 down, you need to borrow another 150, right? Or whatever it is, right? Or you can write a check for 200 or 250 to buy a property outright. Middle class, solid middle class folks, right? Many times, not all the time, but many times you have to make compromises, right? You're going to get a product that's not as familiar. It's not going to meet some standards that you have in your mind. In fact, we have a great resource called the Consumer Resource Guide. We also have a book that I wrote that we'll talk about at the end for briefly that'll help you kind of think through some of those considerations. But the point is that this middle class market is largely underserved, or in some cases, not served at all. And what our company does is we find ways to serve the middle class. Up and until now, we have been on Ambergris Caye. Everything we've done has been on Ambergris Caye, Belize. And we are now in discussions with the landowner in the south. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the country. It's on the mainland, and these are some pictures. It's agricultural, incredible farms, whether they're banana farms or cacao, chocolate farms, those kinds of things. This is wonderful, or citrus. A lot of citrus is grown as well. This is farming country. The soils are incredibly fertile. The rains are predictable and abundant. This is where you want to be if you're going to be farming. This is Swayze River. It's coming out of the Maya Mountains. It's spectacular. This is upriver a little bit. As it starts to get down into the flatter land, the landowner has a beautiful piece of property that they call the Love Farm. We will be working with them to do some incredible ecologically based development there for folks looking to maybe grow their own organic food. And then he has another property nearby that he has really started to lay out in his mind, and we concur 100% into these small farm, 2 to 10 acre farmettes. They will be coming soon as well. Very close to Placencia, so very close to a tourism town, very close to amenities and restaurants and hotels and an airport and things like that. So very, very easy to get to, great access, but with a farming and agricultural component to take advantage of what this part of Belize really has, but also to serve a clientele who's looking for something a little bit more than a condo in a tourist area, right? If you're looking for a property that gives you the ability to plant a garden, grow your own food, this would be something you'd want to ask about. So if you're interested in this, let us know. It's coming soon as maybe 8 to 12 months before we have product availability. But we'll certainly keep you posted as we get through the permitting process and have something that we can bring to market. So figure maybe a year at the outside. So let us know. I want to shift gears again. I told you this kind of presentation, we're going to shift gears a lot tonight because we're covering Belize very generally. And what I want to talk about now, going from lifestyle to investor, is this, that there was an incredible market shift that happened in Belize over the last 15 years. And again, because we've worked there for 32 years, we've watched this shift occur, and we've been able to really put ourselves out in front of it a little bit. And that is here on the island of Ambergris Caye. It's in the northern part of the country. It's off the coast, about 15 miles, maybe 20 miles off the coast. And it's a very long island. It's the biggest island of all of the islands there. It's 26 miles long, anywhere from 1 to about 5 miles wide. And the town of San Pedro is the anchor town of the island of Ambergris Caye. But here's the thing that we really need to remember as investors. We go back to that idea of the popularity curve, right? Belize has become popular. There are people taking their honeymoons there now. They actually give away weeks in Belize on Wheel of Fortune game show, right? You're in the popular world, right? When they're giving away a free week in Belize on Wheel of Fortune and other game shows, right? So Belize has climbed this popularity curve, the path of progress, to the point where it's known in the world. But where are people going? Where are those honeymooners going, right? By and large, and we look at the numbers, 70% of all the tourism revenue, 70% of all the tourism revenue for the whole country of Belize comes from that tiny little island called Ambergris Caye. So if we're investors, right, and we're thinking about cash flow, right, if we're looking for deep value and we're going to land bank, Ambergris Caye is probably not the place to do it, right? But if we're looking for cash flow, we want to go where the money is. We want to go where the people go. We want to go where the renters go, the honeymooners go. Ambergris Caye is the place in the country that you want to be to capitalize on cash flow. And here's what changed the nature of the client. About 20 years ago, the cruise ships started coming to Belize, significantly. There were a few that visited ahead of that, but it's kind of hit or miss. But the cruise ship industry really looked at Belize about 25 years ago, and 20 years ago, they started coming. And a cruise ship drops off 3,000 to 5,000 people per cruise ship. And on some days, we have 5 cruise ships off the coast of Belize now. And they're running people all over the country. They built their own private islands, right? And so, they're really not in our way or anyone's way, right? Which is wonderful, right? But they bring travelers who get off a boat, who run around somewhere in Belize for a day or half a day, whatever it is. They get back on the boat and they sail off to Cozumel, probably where they're going next, or Roatan if they're going the other way, right? And here's the thing. Out of those 3,000, 5,000, some tiny percent, 2%, 1%, half a percent, pick a number. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Some tiny percent of those people will say to themselves, you know what? That was awesome. Let's go back there someday on vacation. I want to do more than a day here. Like, I want to go for a week. When those people, cruise ship passengers, think about coming back to Belize a year or 5 or 7 later, because it's not immediate, right? They just took their vacation. But in 5 years, they're thinking, what do you want to do? Let's go to Belize. And they go online and they start looking for a hotel. This is a cruise ship passenger. This is a mainstream traveler doing a cruise. 5 years later, wanting to go to a hotel. What are they looking for? They're looking for a branded product. They're not looking for the Mike Cobb Hotel, because who's Mike Cobb? Man, if I book a room there, does he have coffee in the room? How about water? How about the internet? I mean, is a bed going to be comfortable, right? I don't know. Who's Mike Cobb? I'm looking for a Hilton. I'm looking for a Hyatt. I'm looking for a Marriott, right? I'm looking for a brand name hotel if I'm a mainstream traveler. This evolution, I guess is the best way to call it. This evolution over the last, say, 15 years from niche market to mainstream market has been profound. 30 years ago, when I went to Belize, if you were a fly fisherman or a serious diver, you knew where Belize was. I didn't know where Belize was my first trip till I found out and went, right? But divers, serious divers and serious fly fishermen knew where Belize was. It was a niche market. There were almost no women tourists, right? It was almost all men, groups of men fishing and diving. Then slowly you'd see some couples coming. Then you started to see families about 15 years ago, right? The market changed. And the town of San Pedro has likewise changed. The town now is a vibrant little tourist, fishing community turned tourist town. Still has incredible charm. We'll look at some of that in a minute. But the key factor is that branded product came along because that's what the consumer wanted. The consumer wanted a reliable, predictable certainty in their return trip to Belize. And our company, ECI Development, picked up the Best Western franchise and the Marriott franchise. The Bayman Gardens is a beautiful resort community. I would say about a third of the folks live there year round. About 2/3 rent their properties out. It's got swimming pool, clubhouse, workout facilities. These are very livable condos. These are condos, and I say people rent them out, but actually probably half the people that rent them long term to renters as well. This is really a residential community with a resort component, and they start around $150,000. You're 3 blocks off the water. You've got a health club. You've got a swimming pool, right? Bar and restaurant on site, and you're 3 blocks from the water on a Caribbean island for $150,000. There is nowhere else in the Caribbean that's a British Commonwealth country, whether it's the Turks and Caicos, British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, Bermuda, Bahamas, where you could match this product at this price. And so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about this time machine. Would you go to the Bahamas and buy a condo, 20 years ago? Most of us would, because we understand what's happened to the prices of condos in Bahamas over the last 20 years, right? This is what's happening in Belize right now. And a beautiful condominium home right off the water, 3 blocks off the water for $150,000. It's certainly something you should take a look at if you're looking for a lifestyle ownership opportunity, right? Come down, live in it, rent it when you're not there, but it's a great product. We were also able to secure the Marriott franchise. This is an oceanfront property. This property, you can see the ocean right behind us. We had all the funding to build the hotel by January of 2022. We then moved forward with architects, engineers, what I would call the soft work. Once we had all the money in place to build it, by 2023, we were rolling with the actual work product. We were putting the caissons down, about 300 caissons down to the bedrock below. You can see by the end of 23, we're coming up out of the ground with all the foundation work. The steel started to arrive in January. By April, the steel of last year, the steel's starting to go up. This picture was taken a few weeks ago, right before Christmas, and we're about to start putting in all of the prefabricated floor and wall panels. This building is going to start to look like a building very, very quickly here, starting next month. So very, very exciting to watch this come up out of the ground. And here's an idea of what one of the residences will look like, a beautiful oceanfront property, but with all of the Marriott standards, and a rendering looking back at the hotel from the ocean, but $350,000. Again, this is a little bit higher than our normal middle class property prices. Typically, we're in that 150 to 250 range, but this is a Marriott residence. It's whole ownership. For $350,000, you own the entire residence. It's yours. It's titled to you. This is an incredible product. And if you were to look at the same thing in the Caymans or Turks or Bahamas, you'd be looking at 3, 4, 5 times this number easily for a similar product in a country like Belize. For investors, we just have to look at really one thing: supply and demand, right? I think that's the most fundamental of all of the elements in economics. If we look at the hotel room count, room inventory from 2013 to 24, 11 years, that inventory only went up about 36%. If we look at the overnight arrivals in that same period, it went up, 91%, so almost 3 times. So if we just simply look at supply and demand and we say to ourselves, yeah, there's going to be a supply and demand imbalance here. And if you're an investor, you understand what that means. This is an opportunity to seize the opportunity, seize this imbalance, and own something that will fill that in. One of the things I really love about the business relationship we have is that there's really what I call an alignment of interests, right? That's really important when you're looking to make an investment, right? Are your interests aligned with that of the developer or the salesperson? And so this alignment is fantastic. Marriott's job is to put heads on beds. They get paid to put as many people in that hotel as they possibly can for the highest market price, because they get paid 5% of that number, right? They don't care about making money. That's not their job. Their job is to fill the hotel and keep it full at the highest possible average daily rate, ADR, they possibly can. Occupancy and ADR, keep those both as high as possible, make the gross number as big as possible so that they get 5% of the biggest number. That's their that's their alignment. That's their incentive, right? That's their goal. Well, then we actually have a third-party operator. We're not going to operate the business. We don't know anything about running a Marriott. So we hired a company called Highgate. They got about 900 hotels around the Caribbean and the United States. This is what they do. They operate branded hotels for ownership groups, right? They actually get paid on the profit, right? They get 6.5% of EBITDA. So Marriott's job is to put as many people in the hotel as possible. Highgate's job is to run it as profitably as possible, right? Because they get a piece of the profit, right? So we're getting great alignment here. And lastly, If you own one of these residences, you make your money on the net cash flow. Marriott's job, put as many people in there as possible. Highgate's job, run it as efficiently as possible. Create the most amount of profit for the owners, which if you decide to move ahead, you'll be one of them alongside us. So very, very important. We always like to put this up. We're happy to share this information if you sign an NDA in much greater detail. The rental split is 70% to you, the owner. You get fee simple title to the residents. The appreciation of the asset is not factored into any of our projections. Cash on cash, about 8% the first year, ramping up to about 18% by year 10. One of the things that you should ask, I would ask, if that's a great return, why are you selling these? Well, we're only selling about 40% of them, right? We are keeping 60% of these residences because we, ECI, our company, we want the cash flow that these hotel rooms, these residences are going to produce. So there are about 70 out of the 202 rooms that are for sale. 70. I think about half are sold at this point. So there are about 35 left that folks can own. You can own one alongside us. And this is what we do as a company. We have made the alignment of interest to all investors equal so that we all win together. That's really the important thing. So why Belize? Why right now? Well, you know what? Depends on what you like to do. Everything from way out there, wacky adventure. If you want to skydive over the blue hole, there's a group that comes and does it. You want to go ziplining through the jungle, you can do that too. Maybe something a little more calm. You can, paddle around with the manatees. That's pretty cool, actually, to go see the manatees. Again, oops, I'm going backwards. Sorry, guys. Cave tubing is a great one. Enjoy that. Go float through caves down a beautiful jungle river. Enjoy just hanging out in San Pedro on your golf cart. Again, it's fun. Go snorkeling. Check out the Mayan ruins. If you're diving, go diving. If you're not a diver, get certified, right? There's no better place in the world than Belize. You can take your classes up in the States. You can go do your open water certification down there. It's warm, warm water. Look at this guy. I mean, he's basically in shorts. Warm water, beautiful coral, beautiful fish. Learning to dive. A lot of folks come down and learn to dive. If you're into the jungle activities or if you're interested in something in southern Belize, obviously horses and horseback riding is something that's easily available. Grab a boat on a Saturday and run off to one of the bars on a little island. Those are always fun. Some great places to get out and have great meals out in the jungle. Hanging out at a beach bar, watching sports is always fun. Quiet dining places as well. Truck Stop is an absolute favorite of mine. I know it's a favorite of Katie's as well. It's on Ambergris Key. They have so many fun activities, just crazy things that they do. I don't know what this is. It might be a quiz night. It might be one of their game show nights. They just do some fun stuff. And if you're on the island as a guest, you'll go meet some really fun, crazy people. If you decide you want to live there, you're going to make really wonderful friends. I said at the very beginning, this idea of saying yes is so important, right? The adventurous souls. I'm guessing that if you are here on this webinar tonight, you would call yourself an adventurous soul. Otherwise, you're not even thinking about Belize, right? And so when you go to an island like Ambergris Caye, you go to a country like Belize, you will be around other adventurous souls. It's wonderful. It's a powerfully delightful community to be a part of. And if this is an investment, you'll enjoy it and you'll do well with it. If it's a lifestyle opportunity, yeah, you're going to drop in and really meet some wonderful, crazy, but wonderful, happy, crazy people who share a real spirit of adventure and love of life. And it can be anything from that to, enjoying some time with friends, or what I would invite you to do is come on down to Belize. Maybe it's San Pedro, maybe it's the jungle. Go find yourself a quiet spot to sit and think about, whether this is the kind of place that you want to be involved with, either as a lifestyle. You might want to live on the island. You might want to live on the mainland. You might want to have a little farm and grow your own food. You may be an investor and you look at this and you say, you know what? I see this incredible supply and demand imbalance, right? Rooms are only up 36%, but overnight arrivals are up 91%. Where are all those people going to stay, right? Oh, and there are a whole bunch of people that got off a cruise ship over the last 20 years. They're looking for branded product, right? I want to take advantage of that. I want to be a part of that. You know, I want to help it happen, right? These are the things that investors can do. And so whatever the reason you're looking, if it's digital nomad, you're saying, you know what? I just want to come down and rent a place for 3 months, 6 months, because I want to go someplace else next time, or I want to go, another new place, right? Great. Lots of wonderful places you can come and rent for 3 months, 6 months and be that digital nomad. But the first thing we have to do is say yes. We have to decide that we're going to come to Belize, or if we're already familiar with Belize, we're going to take a look. We're going to take that next step. And I hope that many of you will do that. Before you take that step, I would encourage you to invest 99 cents. I mean, that just sounds silly. Nobody invests 99 cents, but invest 99 cents and get a copy of my book. You will be so happy you did. This is the synthesis of 32 years of making mistakes, writing them down, figuring out what we did wrong, how we could do it right the next time, do it better. And for 99 cents for the e-copy, or I think whatever, 19 bucks or something for the paperback copy, you will save yourself, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. So I hope that all of you will decide that you want to pick up a copy of the book. And if you don't have 99 cents, my goodness, I'm not sure why you're on this webinar, but anyway, we have something free as well. This Belize handbook is a free resource guide. It's, I don't know, 80, 90 pages. It has everything from hotels, restaurants, the water taxi schedule, the two different airlines, Tropic and Maya schedules. It's got sections on different parts of the country, holidays, all the things that you would need to know generally if you were coming to Belize. It's a travel book, right? It's a travel guide, but it's definitely so much more than that. It's got the kinds of things that if you're looking to live there or invest there that become important as well. So just send us a note, info@ecidevelopment.com. We'll just say something like Belize Handbook in the subject line, and we'll get a copy of that to you. And if you have any questions that we're not able to answer here in the next few minutes, send us a note and we'll get back to you and answer those questions as well. Katie, back to you.
Thanks, Mike. That was great. Now, definitely the info@ecidevelopment.com. I do see a couple folks in the comment section, question and answers, that are anonymous attendees. If
Okay.
you want that Belize handbook, please reach out to us at this email address, because we won't know who you are. So we'll be sure to get that over to you. And if there's anything that we didn't, any questions we didn't get answered in this amount of time we have left, please also send those questions over to the info@ecidevelopment.com. So I'll dive right in. We have a lot of really good questions.
Okay.
I do see a couple coming through. Folks want to know if this will be recorded. Yes, this will be recorded. I know you want to share it with your family, your friends, your partners. I see here in the comment section. This will take a couple minutes to upload. So tomorrow we'll send it out to everybody that was on, so you have a copy to share with those that are interested in Belize as well.
Hey, Katie, before you answer another question, I think you also have a discovery tour coming up, don't you?
Yeah,
Let's
that's
make
what I was
sure
going to dive into as well. Especially the
way
beginning
ahead
of
of it.
this, we had a lot of folks who mentioned that they had never been to Belize before. So thanks for joining us and diving into Belize before you come down and visit us. But that'll be March 30th through April 5th. It's a great discovery tour because we do go onto the island and the jungle, so you really get the feel of Belize and all that of its beauty. So again, March 30th through April 5th, just reach out to us and we'll send you the itinerary. All right, so a bunch of questions here. So prices in US dollars. Yes,
Yes.
all the prices for property are listed in US dollars. I think one thing Mike did mention too, for currency down here, we do accept US dollars when you go to the grocery store or any of the little shops. Just make sure they don't have a tear in them. Sometimes they won't accept the US dollars then. Everything in Belize is 2 to 1. So 2 Belize dollars to 1 US dollar, and you can spend both currencies here. All right, looks like we have a couple people that are interested in the discovery tour, so we'll make note of that and send you the itinerary. That's awesome. Let's see. Okay, same person is going to reach out for your book, Mike, so they have the details
Great.
there. Okay. And some of these details too we'll have to send over because it's going to depend on which residence that you're interested in. So again, anonymous attendee, it looks like you're interested in some details specifically for the properties between 2 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms. Reach out to us and we'll really dive into what it is that you're looking for there. Just, I think there's 12 different floor plans to choose from in the Marriott, so it's really hard for us to go over all the details in the few minutes that we have left here, but we do want to make sure to dive into what it is that you're really looking for to achieve with your goals there. Okay, can you discuss, let's see, Belize experience and average? Oh, they're talking about weather, Mike. So here on the island, we are in the tropics, so we have a rainy season. So June through November, I would say, is the main rainy season. But as you know, Mike, too, in Central America, that rainy season sometimes does extend. But
Yep.
typically June to November, quick overpasses. I moved down to Belize from Oregon. Cold, rainy days, all day, gloom. We don't have that here. So you'll get a quick overpass. And I'm sure you experienced that when you were staying here as well, Mike. It's, pretty warm rain.
It is. And so, in the northern part of the country, it's the driest part of the country. The southern part of the country is the wettest part, and it's a kind of a continuum between the two. That's one of the reasons the farming property sort of about, maybe 2/3 of the way down the country is really in a great location. So you've got, plentiful rain, incredibly fertile soils, and that's really what you need. You need the blending of sun and rain. In Ambergris Key, I would say the weather, say northern winter, right now, January, February, it might get as low as the low 70s on a cold day. Generally, I would say it's in the, low to mid 80s. As we get into April, May, the temperatures climb up into the high 80s, maybe even low 90s. But there's always a wonderful breeze off the ocean on Ambergris. So you're always going to have those trade winds to kind of keep things cool on the island. On the mainland, it can definitely be a little bit cooler or a little bit hotter, especially in the fall and in the rainy season. But temperature I would say the highs probably what mid 90s maybe
If that, most of the times it's just the upper 80s, it
80s,
doesn't
right?
fluctuate a ton. We just had a cold front come through. It was 71 degrees. The kids were running around with parkas on. It was real
Yep.
cute, but that is our cold front, about 71 degrees. So
Yeah, that's
very
right.
moderate temperature.
And I think you're right. I think the average temperature is about 80, 84, 85, I think I remember seeing. So it's out there, look it up, but very pleasant, just pleasant year round. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's a great question I think comes up quite a bit on the webinars. Is Belize safe, especially for solo female travelers? For me, yes, absolutely. I came down to Belize for the first time 7 years ago by myself. And I was back 3 months later, and then I kept coming back. And
Yeah.
now I've lived here for about 5 years. So I feel very safe. And I think, Mike, you've said it before in a couple webinars, if you want to find trouble, it's always there. Very
Yep.
isolated, especially in Belize City on the mainland. But for me living here as a tourist or even as an expat, I don't find that I would ever be in those areas. There's nothing for me to ever go do. So here on the island, extremely safe. You
Yep.
know, I would say lock your golf cart, but that's only because they look alike and you might take the wrong one. But
Yeah, I concur. I think crime is generally local, right? It's very specific. If you it's a, pick on Chicago, I hope there's no one gets offended, but you might say Chicago's a really dangerous city, but there's probably 3 or 4 zip codes that if you took those out of the statistics, Chicago wouldn't be a dangerous city at all, right? Same thing is true everywhere. You've got very localized crime in some areas, but outside of those areas, crime really drops off. So crime is local on one hand, and as you mentioned, Katie, crime is also behavioral, right? If you're out looking for trouble or doing things you probably shouldn't be doing at 4 in the morning, you might find some trouble. So crime is local, crime is behavioral. And I find that most people, almost everybody I've ever experienced, the thousands of people I've talked to over the years, they live a very safe, wonderful life because they just use common sense and pretty much stay out of trouble. So yeah.
absolutely. There's a couple questions. Actually, somebody made a comment. We will send over the models to you. I have your name here. We'll make sure you get the availability for both the Marriott and the Grand Bayman. Here's one about property management. So the Marriott, they just want to confirm that it is managed by kind of a turnkey, it's turnkey opportunity that will be managed for them. And that is correct.
That is, and Highgate is the operator, the manager of the property. Just so everybody knows, it's a third party operator that was recommended, suggested by Marriott. We had or approved. We had to pick an approved operator that Marriott listed for us. We picked Highgate. Again, they've got, I don't know, 900 hotels around the Caribbean and the U.S. That they operate. So this is what they do. They're world class at it, and they will be the operator slash manager of the property. So yeah, fully managed for the owners.
Absolutely. And here's a great question. So if I own a Marriott, can I sell it
Yeah,
after?
it's yours. You own it. You have title to it. Keep it, sell it. Yep, absolutely.
I think that kind of goes back to that slide that you showed for the appreciation where the owner would receive 100% of that, owning the full
Yeah,
title. When they sell
right.
it, they are gaining the appreciation that we're seeing here in Belize.
Correct.
We do see a lot of interest. I do have a lot of names here. We're taking notes, so we'll send over all the models. They want to know, let's see. Oh, just the quality of this Marriott. I guess they're referring to the different tiers of Marriott. And
Yeah.
where does this one stand?
This one is a Marriott Resort and Residences with the big red M. So I would call it it's a Marriott, right? It's not a JW, it's not a Ritz, it's not a Courtyard. It's a Marriott. So, and really for folks checking into it as a guest, they're just going to pull up to it. Everything's going to be Marriott. The doilies on underneath the drinks will say Marriott on them, right? The napkins will say Marriott with the big red M, right? It's truly a Marriott for anybody who's staying there, eating there, visiting there. They won't know that any of the residences are actually independently owned. It'll be fully transparent to a guest, right? And that's actually a really good thing for owners as well, because Highgate absolutely could care less who owns this one or that one or the one over there or the one up there. Doesn't matter to Highgate. They are going to put people in the next available room on a rotational basis as part of their standard operating procedures. So all owners are treated equally in this equation as well. But it really it's a Marriott. It's a Marriott hotel. The other thing, just kind of interesting. Sorry, I'll go off on a little tangent, but a lot of Marriott questions. If somebody comes down and uses their points, right? Because you got 200 million Bonvoy members, right? They are the largest hotel membership organization in the world. 200 million Bonvoy members. So one of the Bonvoy members been racking up a bunch of points. They want to come to Belize for a week, and they trade in their points. And you'd say, well, like, how's that good for us, the owners, right? The owners, the hotel takes in 90% of the rack rate, the average daily rate for that room. And there's different models, so there's different prices. But whatever that room is, they get 90% of that rate in cash because Marriott, when you go to a Marriott and you get points, the hotel has to give away a few bucks to Marriott to put in a fund to pay for rooms when somebody redeems their points. So it's a great system. But what it does is it really creates this incredible captive audience of people who are part of the Marriott program, want to continue to stay at Marriott's. I got points over here. They can then use those points. So point stays are wonderful for our hotel because 90% of that rate gets paid to us. So basically, we're giving a 10% discount back to the company, Marriott, to make a booking with points. But we'll take those, every day of the week. So.
Okay. I think we have time for one more. I think this is a real good one.
Yeah.
For the rental income, can they have that go into their bank account in the US or their bank account here in Belize, like Key International Bank, for example?
I actually don't know the answer to that question, Katie. Why don't you make a note of that and we'll
Sure.
find out, how that actually transpires. I do know that the rental statements will be produced quarterly, and the funds can be distributed as frequently as quarterly, based on somebody's request. But I don't know. I assume it's just a wire transfer, so I assume it could go to any bank, right? It'll be U.S. dollars, by the way, so it would have to be a U.S. dollar account somewhere. But yeah, but
That's a
that's a
great
good
question.
question. Yeah, let's
Well,
find
we're
out.
Coming to the end here, I do see quite a few more questions, but again, if you are an anonymous attendee, please send the questions we didn't get to info@ecidevelopment.com. Everybody else who logged in will be able to send this to you directly, so we want to make sure we get all those questions answered. A lot of interest for that Belize Discovery Tour coming up March 30th through April 5th. We will
Good.
make sure that you get those details over.
By the way, those are a lot of fun. And let me just tell you, the discovery tours are great. Katie is the hostess with the mostest. She runs us around the island, takes us to all these really fun, cool places. We'll go to Truck Stop. We'll probably go to Secret Beach. I don't know the itinerary. We've done this in the past, so fun time. And the other thing that I really like, and it kind of goes back to this idea of being around other folks that have an adventurous soul. Right here in my little town of Shepherdstown, I don't really know anybody that's, an adventurous soul. I'm sure they're out there. I just haven't met them yet. But when you go on a discovery tour, come to Belize and do something like this, you're going to be around. It's small group. It's 12 to 15 max, maybe 16, I think, whatever. But 12 to 15 folks who share this adventurous spirit. And so you're going to make wonderful friends. You're going to have a great time. And if you're thinking about Belize, Discovery Tour is a great way to come and experience it with other folks who are in most cases, experiencing it for the first time themselves as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for being on tonight, Mike. And again, everybody, this is being
Katie?
recorded, so we will make sure to get this over to you so you can share it with your family and friends as well.
All right.
All
Thank you,
right.
Katie. Good
Thanks,
night,
Mike.
everybody.
Bye.